Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec podcast episode. I'm joined with my friend Jose, who runs the RivianTrackr Twitter page, website, YouTube channel. If you're into Rivian stuff, we'll leave all the links in the description. But enough of that. There is a crazy software issue rolling out right now with Rivians. I was just about to update my truck and I loaded up Twitter and I saw you post about don't update your truck. Is crazy, and it's actually kind of a bigger deal than we expected. So, Jose, what is going on? It sounds like everything stems from a software update problem. You know more than anyone on this. So, what's happening?
Yeah, no problem, Kyle. Thanks for having me. So, Rivian rolled out their latest software, 2023.42. Nothing big with the update, just some bug fixes, minor little things here and there. No big new introductions in the software, but it rolled out yesterday about 8 p.m. Eastern time, and normal rollout, nothing crazy. People started getting it, started downloading it. I got a notification. It started installing. Everything seemed to be going well. But then something that I noticed was that it started hanging at around 90% installation for a long time. And we're talking, 45 minutes, an hour 15, which is abnormally longer than it would. And then other people started posting on Reddit and Twitter or X, all of that stuff, and on Discord, where I hang out a lot on the Rivian Discord, that they were also hanging at 90%. And so I tweeted out, hey, been here for a long time. Anybody else having this issue? Other people said that. And then the issue started rolling in when some people were getting the notification that the update was ready to be installed, but then it wasn't there. They would go to their vehicle and there was no update. And then out of nowhere, we started seeing the error messages pop up on the mobile app, on the Rivian app, saying that the installation had failed, that the software couldn't be installed. Please contact Rivian support. And so as that started happening, I got hit with that too. And we're talking about 2 hours into being in the 90% install range. So at this point, it had been on there for a long time. So went out to the vehicle to see what was going on. I was able to unlock it, got into the truck, and the middle center screen was kind of stuck with the Rivian logo, black screen, kind of just rebooting. It was rebooting. It would go black for a few seconds. It would reboot again. It just kept doing that. Then the driver display, it would show you your gear selector. But that was about it, right? Nothing else. It would just show your range, the gear selector, and all that. You could put the vehicle into drive. The cameras, the backup cameras would work. But that was it. Nothing else. Infotainment screen completely bricked. And I hesitate to use the word break because the vehicle drives, right? The vehicle works, but nothing else outside of basic functionality of driving works. You can charge it. I don't know if DC fast charging works. We haven't tried that. AC charging does work. So at least that works. It does not abide to any of your charging schedules. So if you have a charging schedule set on the car, it completely ignores that. And then on the app, it just says install failed, right? Nothing more than that. It doesn't let you do anything. Though funny enough, it does say that the 2023.42 install updated, right? So it shows that update. So eventually, Rivian made a post. Wasim, who's the VP of software over at Rivian, posted on the subreddit, the r/Rivian, that, hey guys, we made an error. This wasn't supposed to go out. There was a wrong certificate assigned to it. They canceled the campaign that went out, but there were people who unfortunately installed it. So those people that were going to get impacted, service was going to reach out and work with them to figure out what was going on. That was last night, about 10 p.m. Eastern time, I think. And so here we are today. It is 11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, November 14th. The only communication we've gotten from Rivian was about 1 a.m. Eastern time, where they kind of said that soft reset and hard reset were not going to make a difference, that this is a bigger issue. And I think the scariest part of it all is that in the initial communication from Rivian, they said that it could potentially be an in-person physical, something physical that needs to be replaced. And I think that's the really scary part, is like, what does that mean? And like, what about, that's a lot of vehicles that are affected. I just want to throw in for a second, I work very closely with the folks over at Teslafy. They launched an alternative website called Electrify, which works with Rivian vehicles, so we can track hardware and software and all that. And we have about 240 vehicles, Rivian vehicles, that are registered over there. And based on their stats, we can see that about 12% of that, of those folks who are affected. So I can't tell you exactly, like, if it's 50%, if it's 20%, if it's 100%, but I do know that at least a substantial amount of people within the community that are involved in social media and on the Rivian stuff, they are affected. And as soon as that update hit and they hit that install button, there was just no way to back out of it. Even if you found out what was going on, it was inevitable. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're waiting to see what happens next. There really hasn't been any communication from Rivian, unfortunately. We're just kind of on a holding pattern. Some people have had success driving their vehicles, some haven't. Saying that they can't even shift into gear. So I don't know. Right, this morning I was able to get into my vehicle, drive. It worked. Obviously, you can set the AC control through your mobile phone before you get into the vehicle, so you can kind of precondition it. But once you're in the vehicle, there is no way to adjust the AC settings. There is no way to adjust media. There's no media that plays. There's no navigation, like I said. So it's really like driving an old school car, except can't even control your AC vents, right? Because that's all controlled through a screen. So the unfortunate side effect of not having physical buttons or physical controls can really be seen in an issue like this.
Okay, that's insane, first of all. So, what really comes to mind for me is I've driven software-connected vehicles, Teslas, for years and years. I own a Rivian. I rely on these vehicles that are really at the control of these large, vehicle companies that are also software companies, the way that they do them. And with constant rollouts and constant updates, with honestly huge success rates up to this point, we've seen a couple bugs here and there, both from Tesla and from Rivian, but nothing like this scale before. This is a whole nother level where an update went to the entire fleet, and everyone, let's just say, 12% of like the real hardcore Rivian owners did it. Yeah. Let's just say 5%, 10%, I guess, I don't know, of all Rivians out there have this and are unable to be, some not driven, or at least with very limited functionality. I think we take for granted how nice the software updates have been up to this point, and maybe it kind of wakes us up a little bit to be like, holy smokes, like these companies really have a lot of control over our vehicles. I don't want to go down that path right now because we're just in the midst of all this, but that's where my head starts going like, crap, I'm going to wait for people to test updates before I get them. I'm always the first to download it as well. I just happen to be in the middle of a shoot. Otherwise, my truck would be one of the affected ones as well. So what is the problem? I mean, they sent a software update out. Wasim did some communication. I want to talk about Rivian's communication plans here, because typically they're great with comms. Doesn't seem like that's the case right now. But let's just, do we know what caused all this?
Yeah, it just seems like someone from what Rivian has said, and again, limited communication thus far, is someone hit a button that accidentally launched this potential internal release out to the public. So vehicles that are assigned to a certain security certificate, specifically if you're part of like that internal beta group. So as soon as a non-internal beta group vehicle gets it, right, it should error out. It shouldn't let you install it. I think what's really interesting here, and I've been speaking to a bunch of people through the Rivian community who work in IT, and I work in IT myself. I know how this works. How we got this far, that it not only let it download, right, because it shouldn't have even let the software update download, but then actually install. There should be checks and balances in place that say, hey, this vehicle is not part of this group. I'm not going to let it install. And it seems like that's where there was a failure, right? A failure of that. And you can sit here and blame people all you like, but really also like it's part of like the development team, right? And the development platform and all that they're using, that Rivian uses, that kind of like also failed here. So there's just there should have been more fail safes in place. And I mean, I'm very grateful to say that thankfully what we've learned from this mistake is that the driving systems of the vehicle and everything else are kind of separate. So at least the vehicle for the most part can drive and it's safe and secure to drive. But right, everything else is just kind of toast currently. And of course, and that's kind of, the situation that we're in.
So how long has it been since this happened? I mean, the update rolled around last evening, so maybe, at least more than 15 hours, rolling up on 20 hours, something like that at the time of this recording.
Yeah, it was about 8 p.m. last night on Monday, the 13th, that the updates started rolling out. And so, it's been a good 14 hours now, almost, since we're talking right now.
And so what has the communication been Rivian been like? Because this seems like obviously it is a huge problem. They just took, who knows what people are doing with their vehicles. Some of them rely on them for emergency work or for whatever. It doesn't matter what they rely on their vehicles for. People rely on their vehicles. And the functionality of those vehicles have been severely degraded. I don't know if it's thousands of vehicles or many hundreds, but a significant portion based off what we can, figure out. And it sounds like Rivian just hasn't said anything other than Wasim posting at 1 a.m. Eastern.
And that's it, right? Yeah. The only official communication at this point we have is Wasim posting on Reddit, which, no offense to Reddit and all that, but that's a very limited subgroup of users there. So not everybody's going to get that information. As soon as I saw that post, I said, okay, let me go post this on Twitter X, share that, right, with my followers. That exploded, right? It got picked up by a bunch of different outlets because, this is the only official communication we've gotten. And then there was a small update, about 1 a.m. Eastern saying that, hey, we are aware of this issue. We're working through it. Soft reset, hard reset, that's not going to do anything, so don't bother. And that's kind of it, right? That was, 10 hours ago, and we have not heard a single peep from social, from email, from anything.
So I guess the only options going forward to fix this would be if Rivian can somehow hammer and force update a remote software patch to the affected vehicles, or truly sending mobile service out around the entire country and who knows, maybe the world, because again, there's people who have Rivians that are exported to other countries. Like if they can't get support, that's really a problem.
I have a buddy who lives in Grand Cayman who has a Rivian R1T, and he's in an island, and he's had this issue. Well, how does that work, right? There's no Rivian support there.
Right, exactly. And I know of some auto companies that own these things that do reverse engineering in Germany and stuff. And it's like, okay, they're connected to Wi-Fi, but now if the Wi-Fi can't update the software, what this seems like a huge problem for some. It could be a very simple fix, hopefully, if they can hammer an over-the-air update. I think the biggest failure of this whole thing is the communication side of things. That's what we always come back to. We see this all the time, which is like, things mess up. Early adopter, we get it. Like, you know what? A couple issues here and there. As long as you're open with us, in general, the EV driver community, we're pretty easy to deal with. But when it's like, we just screwed up thousands of trucks, and then we're not even going to give you an update. We don't know what we're going to do to fix this. An update saying we're not sure what we're doing would be really appreciated, even if it's not useful.
Well, and so, I reached out to, I know a couple of folks that work over at the Rivian mobile app team. They're located in Canada, so they had a holiday yesterday. But I was talking to them last night, and they're like, we're just kind of waiting to be told what's next. Because I was like, can you guys push a banner ad, a notification, anything on the app that at least notifies people saying, hey, we know this is happening, we're working through it. But there's so many steps, right, in the team in the process, and the only thing I can imagine is that legal was sleeping, and nobody woke him up. But I would hope to see an email communication. As of right now, I'm looking. I haven't seen anything come through, and that's a shame because Like you said, Rivian is typically very good about communicating things. And listen, credit where credit's due. I'm glad Wasim jumped on Reddit and said something at all, right? Because he didn't have to do that. But again, small subset of users, and that's not an official form of a channel of communication, in my personal opinion. Whereas, you have the Rivian Twitter X account that hasn't said anything. They have their Instagram account. They have their website, plus all the different channels of news outlets that they work with. So I hope that we get to hear something soon. And going back to what you said about potential fixes, I hope a patch can fix it. And I imagine the teams they're working around the clock trying to figure out, okay, how do we downgrade the software on the vehicles back to the old version, or push an update, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of work to that. Or I've heard some people say that potentially, it may be a solution where a technician has to go out and physically plug into the OBD port and do something physical in that direction. But like you said, Rivian has a lot of vehicles out there, not enough mobile technicians. And there's a lot of people out in different parts of the world that don't have a mobile technician available. So what is their solution? And I don't know the answer to that right now.
Yeah, I think this is, certainly we're going as things are unfolding. We're going to stay on top of this one. It's something we always cover Rivian very closely, both good and bad. I love my truck. I love the company. I love the people there. But that doesn't mean everything is perfect. And in this case, it's almost like, holy smokes, this is really bad. So thankfully, it seems like very few trucks are bricked based on what you're saying. Like most of them can drive, but we have heard of ones that can't drive. And
yeah, there's a few out there. Yep.
Yeah, and who knows, like we deal with a very small subset of enthusiast owners, which were largely the early Rivian folks. But now that these trucks are out to just normal people who bought them as a car. And so they're not online. So it could be an even bigger problem than we know. All I can say is, of course, we're going to reach out to Rivian. We'll send them this. Of course, Jose, you'll be working communication stuff. Let's update this when there's a next major update. I'm sure they'll come out with a way to fix this. I don't want to leave this as a negative story. But we're going to be following it all the way through. So good luck. I know your truck has the problem. Everyone will be all eyes on the RivianTrackr Twitter page over here. I have that loaded up right here. So just make sure you're staying on top of that RivianTrackr page, and it's at Rivian Software. And it's pretty crazy. Like if this happened with like if BMW did this, or like, I'm just thinking like that it just would never happen in the way they do their processes. And the thing that comes to mind is, I spend a lot of time talking to German companies who are very concerned about privacy and making sure things work before rollouts. And, I'm always just like, screw it. Let's just get better software, go fast, and this is honestly seemingly the downside of that.
It is, yeah. And I mean, props to Rivian, right? They every month they release a new piece of software update. They're constant on it, and so far, knock on wood, it was great. Unfortunately, here we go, right? It was bound to happen, and I've seen a few people say, hey, this was their one pass, but this doesn't get to happen again. But unfortunately, even if this is their one pass, there are still people who are heavily affected by this. And as of right now, we still just don't have a word on what the resolution is. And right now, that sucks.
Yeah, there's no other way around it. So keep an eye on your Twitter page. By the time this story goes up, of course, it's old news. That's just the way these things work. So stay on top of the Rivian software, the RivianTrackr Twitter page, your page. I'll be following it closely, and good luck to everyone who has issues, especially those that are not in the U.S. with their Rivians. And I know quite a few of non-U.S. Rivians, or people in the U.S. that are not near a service center, as an example. And I just hope that they are not heavily affected. So thanks, Jose, for coming on. We'll have you back on once the resolutions are sorted, or if this gets worse, I don't know what to think. And we'll all stay in touch on this one. So thanks for watching another Out of Spec podcast episode. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.